What is going on, comic book gang? My name is Jiangxi, aka Year of the Collector. I'm back again with another episode of the Marvel event, One World Under Doom, specifically the tie-in Fantastic Four issue number 29 by Ryan North. This is technically part 8 of 32 of the entire event. If you want to see the other episodes I've covered, you can check the playlist at the end of the video. And for other comic book content, make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. With that being said, let's get into it. Ben and Sue were feeling down and depressed about the state of the world, with the whole Sorcerer Supreme, Dr. Doom taking over the world and all, things were looking kinda grim. So they took a break from their daily routines to avoid talking or thinking about Dr. Doom. For that, they went to New York to meet with their lifelong friend and member of the extended Fantastic Four family, Jennifer Walters, also known as the Sensational She-Hulk. After catching up with each other, Sue jumped right into it. Since Jen is a lawyer, Sue wanted to ask, how is any of this takeover by Doom legal? There ought to be some laws against what he's done, right? Jennifer said that yes, in fact, Doom's actions are technically illegal, but he's been given a lot of leeway by the world leaders to do what he wants. So the real question would be, how did Doom convince all these world leaders to grant him so much power and leverage? That's when Ryan North, the writer of this series, brings real life and art together. And you'll see what I mean by that. The waitress at the restaurant overheard the heroes talk about Doom, and she gave her opinion on the whole thing. She personally has an axe to grind with vampires. It was a real bother to her to see the now daywalkers out and about. Just in case you didn't know, during the Bloodhunt event of 2024, there was a global attack by vampires. They took over many cities all around the world by killing thousands of people or by turning them into vampires too. When the blood hunt was over and the skies were cleared, the sun came back, but it didn't kill off vampires as it did before. Now, all vampires could enjoy the freedom of walking under the sun, just like Blade, the OG Daywalker. I'm sure you know Blade, right? This meant two things. Number one, there was going to be an influx of vampires all over the world. And number two, all of these vampires require resources like housing, jobs, sustenance, you name it. And as you can imagine, there was a section of the population that resented vampires, both new ones and old ones, for what happened in the Bloodhunt, right? Regular people can make a distinction on who was an old vampire that deliberately attacked the different cities and who was a new vampire that was basically a victim during the Bloodhunt and was now a vampire, right? Regular people can't distinguish between that, so they just hated them all equal. So that takes us to Avengers Assemble number 3 by Steve Orlando, and you'll see how all of this ties in together. Places like New York started to use abandoned real estate to accommodate the new vampires. Specifically, the North Brother Island was being used. Vampires were offered housing, at least temporarily, right? Until a permanent solution could be found. But there were people that took it upon themselves to declare open season on vampires. For example, the Night Stalkers, a group of vampire hunters composed mostly of bad guys. They decided to orchestrate an unprovoked attack on the vampires leaving North Brother Island. If it wasn't for the Avengers Emergency Response Squad, the Night Stalker would have burned that entire island to the ground and killed every vampire on it. Those tensions that were flushed out during this issue of the Avengers Assemble are still there between vampires and humans. None of that has gone away. From what I have read from Marvel, the only book, maybe Blade, but the only book that actually has addressed that lingering issue after the Bloodhunt was Avengers Assemble, specifically issue number 3. I have not seen any other writer tackle that problem in the Marvel Universe. So, of course, it's still there. And that's what this waitress, this nameless person, is here to vocalize for us, the readers, kind of like to remind us of that problem. But more specifically, it's alleged by this waitress that Dr. Doom is using the vampire crisis to gather support from the people. She don't say it outright, but this is the hint that you get right? And you'll see why. Honestly, it's not a new tactic, right? It's tried and true. Never underestimate Doom because he's not above using implemented tactics or going for the lowest hanging fruit. But this problem with vampires is more nuanced than that. And I think we can all see that, right? Sue and Jennifer think people are going to devolve from civility into cruelty. But Ben doesn't see it that way. He believes that people are inherently good and it's just a matter of time before they realize that Doom is selling them a lot of BS. But as the thing was saying that, they walked into a mob of New Yorkers chasing down a family of vampires. Sue noticed the vampires needed help, so she placed a force field between them and the mob. What got these people so riled up, you might ask? Did they attack somebody's child, somebody's father, somebody's pet? No, not even close. This mob was trying to kill the vampires because they ate a pigeon. I shit you not. Bro, you know they were tweaking because nobody likes New York pigeons. They're basically just below rats. The mob resorted to personal insults when they didn't get what they wanted. Some even said that the Fantastic Four were on their side against the vampires because they saw Mr. Fantastic kill a bunch of them during the blood hunt. Of course, that took place in Fantastic Four issues 21 and 22. Those were the tie-ins to the blood hunt event. But the mob is either lying or they just misremember what actually happened. And let me show you why. During the blood hunt, Reed and Alicia got stuck in New York when the skies turned dark and the hordes of vampires attacked the city. Reed Richards did everything that he could to fight back and protect the people of New York. He took a lot of damage while at it too. Eventually, he found a stadium and he used his body as a tunnel to move people there because the lighting in the building kept the vampires away. But Reed didn't kill anyone. Matter of fact, the vampire horde sacrificed itself to make it into the stadium and kill the lights. When the horde managed to get past that hurdle, Mr. Fantastic created a device to repel the vampires with sound. And I'm, going off the top of my head, I think that's what the machine did. But even if it wasn't repelling vampires by sound, it didn't kill any of them anyway. So this whole story of Mr. Fantastic killing vampires isn't exactly true. Even so, Sue tried to reason with the mob, telling them that those are two different situations. She-Hulk went a step further and explained that defending yourself from a vampire invasion isn't the same as hunting down a family of vampires for eating a pigeon with pitchforks and torches like this is, the witch hunts of Salem. It just wasn't right. But it was full-blown mob mentality in New York. But cooler heads did not prevail. Someone flanked Sue Storm's force field and stabbed the two adult vampires with wooden stakes. That, of course, turned them into ashes right in front of their children. The situation was going to get worse. Sue had no choice but to bail out with She-Hulk, the Thing, and the two vampire orphans, all while the mob chanted praises to Doom. They made it back to Arizona where the Fantastic Four is based off currently. Sue and Ben got Reed caught up with everything that just happened. The little vampire girl's name was Brooke. She built up the courage to ask Mr. Fantastic if he could fix her and her brother. She felt like they were broken because they had this hunger that other, normal children did not have. She felt like they were broken because when the vampire hunger takes over them, they just lose control. And that's what caused the ruckus in New York. She got the pigeon from her father, and unfortunately, even after everything that happened, it wasn't enough. She was still hungry, so their parents died for nothing. This, as you can imagine, pulled at everyone's heartstrings, especially Ben, who volunteered Reed to find a cure for the kids. While Reed went to work on finding a solution, the kids got hungry and they had to be isolated. But She-Hulk and the Thing got in there with them. One, because they could take their bites and be fine. And two, so they wouldn't feel alone or anything like that, right? These are still children. Soon enough, Reed created these snack bars the kids could eat and satisfy their vampire hunger. And they worked. The kids wouldn't have to seek blood anymore. now that they had these synthetic snacks. The Fantastic Four found extended family members that would take the kids in. Also, Mr. Fantastic reached out to everyone he could in the scientific community around the world to share his invention so vampires everywhere could be fed. Basically, he solved vampire world hunger if you want to think about it that way. Finally, Ben and Sue returned Jennifer back to New York. They were all riding high on this monumental victory and progress they made on this day. Ben was feeling good and his faith in people was restored. Maybe the world would reject Dr. Doom's regime once the trend passed and people's angers and frustration were addressed and handled properly. So, the next day, they were getting the children ready for school like any other day. Unfortunately, they had this false sense of normalcy over them crashed into a wall when they walked outside and saw the Doom propaganda had reached their neighbors across the street. I don't have to tell you what any of this means because it's pretty obvious, isn't it? I'm gonna say this and you can be mad if you want, but if the depiction of the mob in New York or the Fantastic Four neighbors bother you, you might want to reassess and think long and hard. Why is that? Why is it bothering you, right? I'll leave you with that question for you to think about for now. And with that being said, my name is Jancy, aka Year of the Collector. I want to thank you for watching. You have a blessed day. And remember to read more comics.